Tonight, it is a chance to rekindle.
Cheers!
Our little piece of paradise.
Brand new series, Escape to Florida on Channel 4, weekdays at 4.
What do you think of the theory that pro wrestling might have influenced Trump?
Everything he does is the psychology of pro wrestling.
He's applied WWE storylines to politics.
Someone might kill you for your beliefs.
A new documentary, Wrestling with Trump, on Channel 4, Tuesday at 10.
I'm in the prime of my youth, and I'll only be young once.
I don't want to be the same as everybody else.
You just gotta keep living, man. L-I-V-I-N.
Film 4's When You're Young season continues with How to Have Sex tonight at 9.
Trending on Channel 4. Some of us learn by doing. Virgin Islands back. Infinite strength in Made in Chelsea, Sam Vanderpump's story. Exqueeze the millennial messiness, it's comedy big mood. All streaming now on Channel 4.
Paul Merton is servicing a slate-hauling steam train in none other than the birthplace of Thomas the Tank Engine. Driving amazing trains, that continues tonight at 8. But we've arrived now at the Channel 4 News with Matt Fry in London and Kieran Jenkins in Leeds.
Two British-Chinese dual nationals guilty of spying on Hong Kong dissidents right here in the UK. How much Chinese interference is there in Britain?
I do not feel safe to live in the UK. I have been facing different sorts of spies, different sorts of, well, even physical harassment.
Good evening. It was all meant to be so different. Free from British colonial rule, Hong Kong was meant to show the People's Republic of China a path to more openness and democracy. The opposite has happened. Under Xi Jinping, China has become very rich, but much less democratic. Hong Kong has lost most of its freedoms, and tens of thousands of Hong Kong citizens and dissidents have sought refuge right here in the UK. Those are some of the people spied on by a manager at the Hong Kong Economic Trade Office in London and a former UK Border Force official who referred to their targets as cockroaches. The guilty verdict comes months after the government approved the controversial site of the new Chinese mega embassy in the heart of the City of London.
And good evening from Leeds. Also tonight, are some NHS staff being harmed by the very medicines they're giving patients? We hear from nurses about symptoms including miscarriage and hair loss after handling hazardous medication, and reveal the lack of protections putting health workers at risk. We're in Houston with US-born children living in fear their parents will be detained in Donald Trump's controversial immigration raids. Thousands of families have already been separated, with the administration promising mass deportations are coming.
Anything I have?
And this is very a lot of family.
And what better gift? A new species of wasp is named after Sir David Attenborough as he turns 100 years old tomorrow, having spent a lifetime telling the story of our majestic natural world and his efforts to protect it.
So the government has summoned the Chinese ambassador to the Foreign Office tonight after a Border Force official and retired Hong Kong police superintendent were found guilty of carrying out shadow policing operations for China here in Britain. Dual Chinese-British nationals Peter Y and Bill Yuen have been convicted of assisting a foreign intelligence service, with Y also found guilty of misconduct in public office for using the Home Office computer system to search for people of interest to the Hong Kong authorities. Anya Pop has this report.
They came here to escape the Hong Kong authorities. But exiles living in the UK have been subjected to an escalating campaign of surveillance and intimidation.
Do we see actors acting on behalf of the Chinese state engaging in activity that threatens UK national security? Yes, of course. Every day in life.
Today, another warning that almost 30 years since it stopped being a British colony, Hong Kong is waging a shadow war in the UK. increasingly adopting Beijing's authoritarian playbook. On trial in London, dual Chinese-British nationals Bill Yuen, a retired Hong Kong police superintendent, and UK Border Force official Peter Y, who is also a special constable with the City of London Police. Both men accused of shadow policing operations for China on British soil. It's here at the unassuming Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in central London where operations were run. Bill Yuen was office manager here, but in reality he was also gathering intelligence for authorities in Hong Kong, receiving hundreds of thousands of pounds which he used to pay Peter Y to track dissidents, behaving, the prosecution argued, as though they had the right to act as police or state intelligence here in the UK when no such right existed. Hong Kong authorities have made no secret of their desire to track down dissidents linked to pro-democracy protests, offering bounties of up to £100,000 for information. Y used UK Border Force systems to gather intelligence for Yuen. Yuen also commissioned filming of protests to try and track down exiles wanted by authorities back in Hong Kong, who they referred to as cockroaches. One of those was Fin Lau, who has a six-figure bounty on his head.
I was shocked when I realized that my name are being listed on the summary of evidence. I was not informed by the relevant parties beforehand.
Do you feel safe in the UK?
I do not feel safe to live in the UK, although I treat this as my second home since 2019. So what I have encountered for the last few years, despite the so-called protection by the UK government, is that I have been facing different sorts of spies, different sorts of, well, even physical harassment.
Hello, can you please open the door?
It was this operation in Pontefract that led to their arrest for foreign interference. Another man working with them, ex-Marine Matthew Trickett, was also arrested, but took his own life shortly after being released on bail. Their target was a woman accused of stealing millions from an influential businesswoman who flew in with two retired Hong Kong police officers after Yuen's men had tracked the woman down to West Yorkshire.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, can you open up? We need to investigate the leak. Ma'am.
Their own video footage reveals them posing as maintenance men to trick the occupant to open. When she didn't, they forced their way in. But she wasn't there. MI5 had been tracking the group and had warned her to move out. The jury were unable to reach a verdict of foreign interference for that incident, but today found Yuen and Y guilty of assisting a foreign intelligence service. Y was also found guilty of misconduct in public office for misusing Home Office databases. The case has laid bare the reality for some of those who seek sanctuary in Britain. Can you describe what it feels like to always be watching your back?
Well, to me, unfortunately, I have get used to the life that I need to keep looking around whether I'm being followed or maybe facing some sort of security risk. Some people may break into my home. I have been moving home every year because of security risk. This is not a normal life of many people.
The trial has been a big test for the UK's new National Security Act, designed to stop foreign interference, but also for relations with Hong Kong, a territory once under British rule, now actively operating against it.
Anya Pop. Now, of course, it's election day and polling stations across Wales, Scotland and parts of England are open for local and national elections today. Our senior political correspondent, Paul McNamara, joins us from Westminster. Paul.
Yeah, after months of build-up and weeks of covering what's at stake, there actually isn't an awful lot I'm allowed to tell you right now because of strict broadcasting rules on election day. There are local elections in England, Scotland and Wales, but not Northern Ireland. In Scotland, voters will be voting in 129 members of the Scottish Parliament. In Wales, it's an enlarged 96-member Senate. And in England, there are just over 5,000 seats on 136 councils being contested, some full councils, some just a third of their councillors. And there are also 6 directly elected mayoralties up for grabs. With just under 3 hours until polling closes, that's about all I can say, except for this. By the time you wake up in the morning, only about a third of English results will be in. Nothing from Scotland, nothing from Wales overnight. So for the fullest picture of what's happened and what it all means, probably best to tune in to Channel 4 News tomorrow night at 7.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul. Now, miscarriages, hair loss and skin conditions, just some of the symptoms that nurses told this programme they've experienced after handling hazardous medicines such as chemotherapy drugs. Channel 4 News, alongside The Independent, can reveal that a lack of clear guidance, risk assessment and enforcement is putting healthcare workers at risk. Campaigners say cost-cutting by hospitals means some staff are not being properly protected. Our health and social care editor, Victoria MacDonald, has this exclusive report.
Alison Simons and Sam Tolland were working as cancer nurses in the NHS when they both suffered miscarriages, and so had other colleagues. The question they eventually asked themselves was, could it have been the oncology drugs they were treating patients with every day?
So after the first one, didn't really make any connection, but after the second and third, it was like, okay, this is a little bit unusual. And talking to my colleagues, you know, it became evident that they'd had miscarriages, they had fertility problems and other issues. Can't prove it, it's anecdotal, but it just made me question.
We don't know completely what the risk is, but there is a risk, and therefore we should be protecting people to the maximum level that we can.
After a nursing colleague suffered multiple miscarriages, despite no definitive link, the trust Sam works for introduced a safer way to deliver the chemotherapy.
So this is our closed system that we use. So because we use a particular type of pump, that means that we can create a closed system. So that means that we're not exposed to the chemotherapy. All right, that's it, yeah.
And it makes you feel safe, Tracy?
Yeah.
Chemotherapy and some immunotherapy drugs are hazardous medicinal products, or HMPs.
There we go.
And both Sam and Alison have helped update the EU guidelines, but it hasn't happened in the UK.
The Health and Safety Executive does have guidance. You can see they've listed the risk factors, but it is only guidance. It's not mandated. So you have trusts like this one where they've introduced closed systems, and then you have other trusts across the country where it's just not happening.
There isn't even an agreement on what PPE to use, including gloves and aprons. Indeed, new research now shows that of 747 nurses surveyed, 30% had never used closed systems when delivering hazardous cancer drugs. Nearly 40% had used inappropriate gloves, and 20% reported a wide range of symptoms.
Headaches definitely is up there, and we can identify quite specific drugs that would be causing that. Hair loss was second, that hair loss could be a unit problem. And further down, we're talking about miscarriages, abnormal fetuses being born.
A separate study also showed the need for better environmental monitoring.
We did a workflow through from pharmacy into the nursing unit, and actually we did find that the contamination flowed through. It was specifically about the tips of their gloves, the machines that they were using and the trays that they were delivering in, and all of them were also contaminated.
The issue is the legislation, the Control of Substances Hazardous to Health, or COSH. It requires exposure to substances classified as carcinogens and mutagens to be controlled, using, for instance, closed systems. But the get-out clause is as low as reasonably practicable. There is also no specific guidance on reprotoxins, drugs that affect fertility. In a previous investigation into the impact of formaldehyde on health workers, Channel 4 News revealed this was precisely the issue campaigners came up against. That phrase, as low as reasonably practicable. They say it is just not strong enough.
Because there is a lack of consistent standards in terms of guidance, that allows employers to make their own decisions about what controls they implement. And often we're seeing that cost is being used as a reason not to implement more robust controls, which leaves nursing staff at risk of exposure.
What needs to happen now?
We would like there to be a clear definition of what hazardous medicinal product is in the UK, a definitive list of hazardous drugs and substances published or adopted for the UK, and we would also like to see guidance setting a clear minimum standard for control of the life cycle of a HMP.
Now, Channel 4 News and The Independent have learned government ministers have asked the Health and Safety Executive to review evidence of a link to health problems following a question in the House of Commons.
I think that would be quite upsetting for lots of patients who are extremely grateful for the care that they get from staff administering substances like this at a time when they're dealing with life-threatening illnesses, and they would be very distressed if they thought that there was any risk of harm to those nurses and other staff.
And the government told us today the safety of NHS staff is non-negotiable, and there are clear legal duties on employers to ensure healthcare workers handling hazardous medicinal products are properly protected at all times. They said we are working closely with the Health and Safety Executive and NHS England to ensure concerns raised by professional bodies are fully considered and staff are listened to. Yet as much as they welcome the HSE review, what the campaigners and nurses are saying is don't wait for more research. Make it safer now for those delivering these treatments.
That exclusive report by Victoria MacDonald. And if you have a story you think we should be investigating, whatever it is, do get in touch. There's the email there, c4investigations@itn.co.uk. Matt.
Now, Iran has said that it has not yet reached a conclusion on the latest US proposals to end the war and open the Strait of Hormuz. But the regime in Tehran has created a government agency to tax vessels seeking passage through the contested waterway. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, there has been another day of violence despite a nominal ceasefire with Israel. Here's Harry Fawcett.
3 weeks now into a purported ceasefire, Israel is still striking paramedics in southern Lebanon. The Hezbollah-affiliated Islamic Health Authority sharing these images of a strike in the town of Toul. Rescuers reportedly treating casualties of an earlier attack when they too were struck and injured. Deliberate targeting of ambulances remains a war crime. Israel says more than 20 overnight strikes and more today were in response to Hezbollah breaches of the ceasefire, that its forces killed one fighter who was trying to hide a rocket launcher, that others launched rockets and drones at Israeli troops. Israel's Prime Minister hailing the first strike on Beirut since the ceasefire, last night killing a Hezbollah commander.
He thought he could continue directing attacks on our forces and our communities from his hidden terrorist headquarters in Beirut. He probably read in the press that he had immunity in Beirut. He may have read it, but it will no longer happen.
It is, though, the Iran war ceasefire and its implications for the Strait of Hormuz commanding most global attention. President Trump put the abrupt reversal of his Project Freedom operation to break Iran's stranglehold on the waterway down to accelerating progress towards a deal. But today the US NBC network reports it was spiked by Saudi concerns that Riyadh denied the US the use of its airspace. Iran today releasing new images of a container ship it seized 2 weeks ago as it continues to review a one-page 14-point US memo that could be the basis for an interim deal, during which a final agreement would be negotiated. It reportedly includes a moratorium for a fixed number of years on Iranian nuclear enrichment and offers the Iranian regime sanctions relief and access to tens of billions of dollars of frozen assets.
Iran's playing a long game here, right? They're not looking at this in a short-term way. They're looking at it this as a long-term thing. So getting an interim agreement where they can get some funds, see a little sanctions relief, and frankly, see their revenues ramp back up is really critical to not only regime stability, but to stabilize the Iranian economy.
But how different would that be from the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal that Donald Trump withdrew from in his first presidency? That deal limited nuclear enrichment rather than banned it, and to Trump's fury involved a $1.7 billion payment to Iran. But still, a hard sell for the US president that the result of his war would have been sufficiently different to justify its cost to the US Treasury, the global economy, and US voters ahead of midterm elections. In Gaza today, they were counting the growing daily cost of another nominal ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. This morning, a funeral for 3 members of the same family killed yesterday in an Israeli strike. This afternoon, another strike killing 3 Hamas internal security personnel. Gaza's health ministry says nearly 850 Palestinians have been killed since the ceasefire was signed 7 months ago.
Well, with the Strait of Hormuz still effectively shut, there are concerns that jet fuel supplies will eventually run low in the UK. But the government has today hit back at claims that summer holidays may be at risk, saying the number of flight cancellations is currently in line with what we'd see in a normal year. Well, our economics reporter, Neil MacDonald, is here. So, Neil, Mallorca or Bognor Regis this year?
I'm not sure I can settle that choice for you, Matt. I think we do have here a choice between what seems to be 2 completely different alternative views of the world, really. So on the one hand, in the middle of April, the International Energy Agency was warning us all that there might be shortages of jet fuel in Europe within 6 weeks. And on that timetable, that will be hitting by the end of this month. Just this week, one analyst was saying the world is sleepwalking into a crisis, predicting outright flight cancellations this summer. But just yesterday, the UK airline industry was telling us fuel supplies remain stable, no flights are being cancelled due to fuel shortages, and they're planning to operate a full schedule this summer. No caveats from them on any of that. So for them, holidays are on.
But if you look at the bigger picture, it sounds pretty contradictory what they're saying.
Yes. I mean, let's start by looking at why some people think the UK is particularly vulnerable on all this. So we consume about 12 million tonnes of fuel, jet fuel every year, but we only produce about 3.5 million tonnes, and we make up that quite big gap by net imports. So we're very dependent on fuel coming from abroad. Now, before the war, the majority of those imports were coming from 3 countries: Kuwait, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. Between them, 61% accounted for 61% of our jet fuel imports. Point of comparison for the European Union is about 43% of their jet fuel that comes from the Middle East. And the refinery industry in this country will tell you that one of the reasons why we're in this position is because we haven't done enough to keep refinery capacity in the United Kingdom.
Neil, asking for a friend here, it doesn't look like anyone's holidays are particularly safe.
So here's what's happening, and here's what may help you out, or your friend. So pre-war, the USA was accounting for about 4% of our imports. Now, according to NG analysts who follow this, it's an extraordinary 45%. That is a dramatic turnaround. We're also apparently pulling in jet fuel from places like Nigeria. Why is it coming here? We're willing to pay more for it. The key question for our holidays, will it keep flowing? And analysts do point out that those jet fuel shipments, they could go to other countries, possibly other European countries, if they're willing to pay a higher price.
Neil, thank you very much indeed for that. Well, joining me now is Alan Eyre, who was a core member of the team that negotiated the 2015 nuclear deal between the United States and Iran. Alan Eyre, thank you very much for coming on the program. I mean, you just heard from Neil here the problems that we've got and others have got with jet fuel. We know about the Strait of Hormuz being virtually shut. Has President Trump bombed the Iranians into a stronger negotiating position than they had when you were negotiating with them in 2015?
Exactly right, Matt. We had the fortunate circumstances when we were negotiating with Iran of only having to focus on the nuclear issue. But by this war, we've created a new issue, a far more exigent, urgent issue, which is, as you said, the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, where every single day that passes, the economic consequences are compounding, which is why I think even now, the United States is finally realizing it needs to start negotiating in earnest.
Right. So there is this 14-point plan that the Americans have put on the table. We're waiting for the Iranian response to this. As far as you know anything about this plan, does it give you any hope for a compromise being reached anytime soon?
Well, there's nothing, I mean, the plan itself is almost irrelevant. It's the willingness of the two sides to negotiate that's troublesome. Each side keeps trying to get a marginal increment of leverage over the other. I don't think either side is particularly focused on negotiating. The issues themselves are relatively straightforward. Strait of Hormuz being reopened in exchange for a lifting of the American naval blockade. That's the first set of issues. Second set of issues, Iran accepts constraints on its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. Both of those are theoretically solvable, but I have real concerns that both sides are in a position where they really are focusing on the need to reach a negotiated solution.
Right. And if they were trying to reach a lasting negotiated solution, judged on your experience, would that take, I mean, I think Obama has been talking, I mean, Trump was talking about a month. Is a month enough time?
No, not even close. It took us 5 years to get a nuclear agreement. 3 of them were a waste of time. Even when we were focused, 2 years, about 18 months, 2 years to do it. And now you've got just not one issue, the nuclear issue, but as I said, the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade, missiles, Lebanon, proxy support, and there's so much less trust between the two countries than there were when I was doing this. So I would say it's possible we'll get a short-term deal relating to the Strait and to the blockade, but a comprehensive nuclear deal, I think, is a lot less likely, Matt.
Right, and if that's the case, you've always got the Israelis on the sidelines. What's to prevent them from finishing what they regard as unfinished business of regime change in Tehran?
Yeah, spot on. I mean, there's a difference between U.S. war goals and Israeli war goals. For Israel, it's very clear. They want to topple the Islamic Republic of Iran, make Iran a failed state, so it is no longer a threat to Israel. Israel's been quite clear about that. And so Israel does not want a negotiated solution between the United States and Iran. It wants to continue the mission, to continue the war. So I'm concerned that Israel will try to play a spoiler role and scuttle negotiations going forward. And this is such a fragile ceasefire, that could be relatively easy to do.
Right. And just quickly, who's got more time here? The world economy with the strait closed, or the Iranian regime with the blockade, and deep economic problems that were there at the beginning of the year?
That's an easy question. Iran has more time. It's a 2-clock issue. The clock that's hurting Iran is moving more slowly. Plus, Iran is not facing midterm elections. The clock that's hurting the global economy of the United States is moving a lot more quickly, Matt.
Okay, Alan Eyre, thank you very much indeed for that succinct analysis. Let's go to Kieran in Leeds. Kieran.
Thanks, Matt. Now, did Jeffrey Epstein write a suicide note in prison? The publication today of a document that his former cellmate claimed to have found 3 weeks before Epstein's death in 2019 has sparked controversy over whether it really was written by the late sex offender. Meanwhile, as Kieran Moodley reports, the US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has been accused of changing his story about when he and his family visited Epstein's private island.
Could this end the conspiracies? The alleged suicide note of Jeffrey Epstein, apparently found by his cellmate. He claims he discovered it just weeks before Epstein was found dead in August 2019. It is a treat to be able to choose one's time to say goodbye, Epstein is alleged to have written. The note was released by a federal judge after a request from the New York Times, which reported last week that the note had been sealed as part of Epstein's cellmate's own criminal case, and that meant investigators scrutinizing Epstein's death lacked what could have been a key piece of evidence. Epstein's death was ruled a suicide by a New York coroner, but conspiracy theories have spread ever since, and the emergence of this new potential evidence shows how this story keeps churning up information and intrigue.
Secretary Lutnick,
such as in Washington yesterday, where yet another high-profile figure was asked to explain their relationship with Epstein. This time it was the turn of Howard Lutnick, the US Commerce Secretary. He was once Epstein's next-door neighbor in Manhattan, but in a podcast last year he said after visiting Epstein's house just once, he never saw him again.
My wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. That's my story. A one and absolutely done.
Then, just months after that interview, this, a photo from the newly released Epstein files showing Lutnick and his family on Epstein's Island in 2012. While Lutnick admitted his mistake, the House Oversight Committee still wanted to ask him about why he had misled the public. The hearing was held behind closed doors, with a transcript to be released later, but Democrats have made up their mind.
Well, now we know why that interview was not videotaped. If Donald Trump had seen the video transcript, he would have fired Howard Lutnick. It was really embarrassing.
A Commerce Department spokesperson said Lutnick answered nearly 400 questions and explained that his encounters with Epstein did not constitute a relationship. But this story continues to cause a headache for the Trump administration.
The next document I want to show you.
Thomas Massie has been a key Republican campaigning for Epstein's victims and taking the Department of Justice to task.
Massey's a complete and total disaster as a congressman and, frankly, as a human being.
That's led to President Trump now endorsing Massey's opponent in the upcoming Republican primary in Kentucky. But the congressman is fighting back, speaking to Tucker Carlson on his podcast, saying those attacking him are part of an alleged cover-up.
The people who are funding the ballroom, the people who are funding the arch, the people who are funding the rebranding of the Kennedy Center, these are the people who are also funding my opponent. These are the people who have the ear of the president. These are the people who are dominating our foreign policy decisions. They're the billionaires. And these are also the same people who are in the Epstein files.
Massey provided no evidence, and so is he now just fueling yet more conspiracies? This upcoming primary is a test of whether Republicans believe Massey or Trump, and whether the president can continue to cement his grip on the party.
Kira Moodley. A 28-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of trying to sell the phone of Keir Starmer's former chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney. The Met Police say the mobile, which was originally stolen when Mr. McSweeney was still in his government job, has not been recovered. The arrested man is not suspected to have originally stolen the phone. He's been released on bail.
Now, Donald Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, has promised to ramp up controversial immigration raids, declaring mass deportations are coming. Outrage over the killing of 2 Americans by ICE officers back in January had prompted the White House to change the agency's leadership and soften its rhetoric somewhat. But raids have continued at pace, with around 1,200 arrests being made per day currently, and thousands of US-born children have been separated from their parents. Our Latin America correspondent Guillermo Galdos has been speaking to some of them in Texas.
Niños, buenos días. Levántense. Vamos a orar antes de irnos, porque siempre que salimos, encomendarnos a Dios para que Dios nos guarde en el camino.
A prayer for protection.
Cuida a todas las personas que salen a trabajar, Señor, que salen a la escuela, a los niños, Señor, protégelos de todo mal, de todo peligro, Señor, y en tus manos yo coloco a mis hijos.
In a time of great peril.
Guardándonos, Señor, en este día y que nos permita regresar de nuevo a casa, Señor.
No child should live in fear, but for boys like Pablo and Dylan, that is what they live with from the moment they wake. They're both US citizens born in this country, but the mother is not. Originally from Guatemala, Berta is one of the estimated 8 million undocumented people working in America.
A él cuando lo agarraron en este lugarcito de aquí. Ya no alcanzó a llegar a la casa. Y en ese momento me sentí muy triste porque pues me quedaba yo sola con mis hijos.
Berta's husband was picked up 6 months ago by ICE, part of President Trump's campaign to ramp up deportations of people in the country illegally. So now, more than ever, she's reliant on her community. Patricia runs a clandestine creche, taking care of the children of undocumented people as they go to work. Parents leave their children with her because they know if the worst happens, she will look after them.
Muchas veces me han dicho, si ya no regreso le encargo a mis hijos.
Incluso hay una mamá que me ha dicho, si yo ya no llego a venir, recoja a mis hijos si están en la escuela, por favor, cuídemelos. Ellos deberían estar felices con sus papás.
Most of these children have already had one parent deported. Nicole has lost both. She's 2 years old and for now orphaned by ICE.
¿Quién es?
Mami.
Es tu mami. Dile good morning.
Her parents were deported 6 months ago, leaving Patricia to care for her.
Me emociona que pues ya pronto va a venir, pero pues a ver qué pasa. Porque ya llevo tiempo de no verla, casi 6 meses.
Patricia makes sure she video calls with her mum every day and is trying to find a way to reunite them.
Y más ella tan pequeñita, ella no sabe, como que no entiende la situación, ¿verdad? Ella por aquí vivía cerca de su mamá y cuando pasamos por ahí, ella siempre dice, mi mamá, piensa que está ahí en ese departamento su mamá.
Nicole might not be old enough to really understand what is happening. But for Berta's son, Pablo, who is 10, he's grappling with a reality that is far beyond his years.
Mi mamá dice que nos pueden separar de mi hermano y a mí y yo no quiero eso. Por favor, dejar a las familias en paz porque muchos niños sufren porque sus padres dejan este país y los niños quisieran que regresen sus padres, pero los padres no tienen oportunidades de regresar.
Part of the reason they can't return is the effectiveness of the Trump administration's policy here at the border and the fear it invokes.
You see that little border wall over there? That's a border wall that was made by the Biden administration. Even though they said they didn't put up a border wall, that little wall is the Biden's wall. The tall wall is going to be Trump's wall.
The zero-tolerance approach to anyone attempting to cross is hugely popular in America. And now, with the focus having turned to those already inside the country, Raul Cruz sees an opportunity.
We'll do what needs to be done to help out this administration and help out ICE in the same process while making money.
A bounty hunter by trade, he tracks and traces people who have skipped bail and tells us he's hoping to deploy his skills to track down undocumented people for ICE.
Now there's more money in their budget, so they could operate different game plans to help solve the problem. So if one of their solutions is hiring private contractors to do it, that's great, because like I said, we know the community and stuff, so it's a lot easier for us to go to a certain area and look for certain people.
And many people will think, because there are a lot of Hispanic descendants here, do you think people are racist?
You know what? I get that all the time where people call me racist and stuff. You know what? I'm not racist. I got nothing against anybody of any color or race or anything, but at the end of the day, like I said, there's a right way to do things and a wrong way.
Patricia, who is also undocumented, is not naive about her position in this country and the feeling of many Americans like Raúl.
Pues sí, es algo que no hicimos bien, ¿verdad?, de venir ilegalmente a este país. Pero al final de cuentas hay maneras de detener a la gente y los tratan mal, los tratan como si fueran los peores criminales. Me tocó ver a jóvenes que saliendo a trabajar los detuvieron y más bien sí los golpearon, los tiraron al piso y no los dejaban ni siquiera levantarse.
This is a reality these children are living with every day. And as you would expect in a 10-year-old like Jenny, it instills terror.
I am scared for they can grab to my dad or my mom because they're the only thing I have. And they separate a lot of family. And they can be a little bit scared because they can...
Tranquila. No.
Before heading home, Berta allows her boys some rare outside playtime. Previously, all the children would be out in the yard, but now they're hidden away.
Mis niños siempre me piden que los saque al parque a jugar, pero yo no los puedo sacar mucho porque me da miedo andar con ellos en el parque también. Y ellos extrañan también estar jugando así con su papá, extrañan estar jugando con los amigos y pues no pueden salir.
People like Berta came to the US enticed by the promise of the American dream, the land of the free. But the Trump administration's policies means she now lives in a prison of fear.
Guillermo Galdos with that special report. And since the filming of his piece, Patricia was able to arrange for Nicole to be reunited with her parents in Guatemala. This is the moment she saw her mother for the first time in more than 6 months at the airport. Like so many children whose undocumented parents have been deported, she is a US citizen who will now have to readjust to life in a country that she has not known. Kieran.
Now, health authorities on at least 4 continents are working to trace all contacts of the people who left a cruise ship struck by an outbreak of hantavirus. 29 people from 12 different countries got off the MV Honduras on the 24th of April. Emilia Jen has the latest.
It's an unlikely location for a birdwatching tour, but scientists believe it's here at a landfill site in Argentina that a couple may first have come into contact with the hantavirus. Authorities are soon to start trapping and analysing rodents. The pair later boarded MV Honduras, an outbreak at sea triggering an international coordination effort. This a rare incidence of human-to-human transmission with 5 confirmed cases. But there were words of reassurance from global health leaders who said this was not the beginning of a pandemic.
Please let me just add that the risk to the general public is low. And I think we need to contextualize this because there's a lot of attention, and it's good that we're seeing attention, but we do want to put in context to what we mean for everyone saying, oh my gosh, is this the next one? I think people see me sometimes and they think, it's like the next COVID. And I really just want to assure people this is something that's quite different.
This is my sad duty to inform you that one of our passengers sadly passed away last night.
It was on April the 12th that the ship's captain announced the death of the first passenger.
Because of this, it was due to natural causes, we believe, and also whatever health issues he was struggling with, I'm told by the doctor, were not infectious. So the ship is safe when it comes to that.
The video was filmed by Ruhi Senate, who disembarked 2 weeks later.
Since we were not informed of any contagious disease, everyone was relaxed. We could be isolated in our cabins, and if we could, wear masks, I think this problem could have been solved before spreading too much.
Oceanwide Expeditions, which manages the ship, said that on the date of the announcement no other symptomatic individuals were present on board and that maritime standards on reporting a death at sea had been followed. The presence of the rare virus was not confirmed until the 4th of May, by which time 3 passengers had died. Another 3 passengers showing symptoms were evacuated from the MV Honduras yesterday and flown to the Netherlands for treatment. The ship, refused harbour in Cape Verde, is now on its way to Tenerife, where it'll anchor while waiting for planes to repatriate remaining passengers, including 22 Brits.
When the ship docks in the next day or 2, they will be repatriated to the UK. We're still working through, particularly with the Foreign Office, on all the details about the flights and where we'll go after they come here. We are going to be supporting them to self-isolate probably for 45 days, so 6 weeks. Although that number may change, we're learning a lot about the virus at the moment, and we may adjust that number over time.
30 passengers disembarked in St Helena on April the 24th. Of them, 4 British citizens are self-isolating on the island. 2 made it back to the UK and are isolating here, with authorities calling for a 7th to come forward, having travelled onwards to an unknown location. A sprawling international contact tracing operation has begun, including those who travelled on a flight the wife of the first passenger to die took to Johannesburg from the island before herself passing away.
Media Jen reporting. After the break, 100 years of Attenborough. The celebrated naturalist says that he's overwhelmed by the countless birthday greetings he's received from preschool groups to carers.
Welcome to your crash course in saving on car insurance. The good people of Britain are driving around and suddenly they get hit with a nasty car insurance quote. That's why it's our job to stay one step ahead, bring them our best deals and save the day. Better Off begins with Money Supermarket.
The mind can hold you back. Scared of the unknown. Unwilling to change. But you can challenge that voice. Break free from what's expected. From what's comfortable. Knowing more is out there. Just waiting to be found. With the JQ7.
At Amazon, we offer term time working to our employees. So when they're on a school break, you can take one too.
It's happening again. This is madness. In its rawest form.
So trust the manager!
It's time we let it pour.
When you run a small business, mistakes can happen. And if one of them causes a problem, like sending your client's TV ad to air without the actual ad, Hiscox could help protect you for when it all goes wrong. Hiscox Business Insurance.
Oh, you want weight loss advice?
Weight loss? Actually, what you want to do...
You should try. Ooh, my secret is...
Check out my 7-step.
I swear
An
by...
egg a day.
Forget that, you're so amazing. Can't believe this. Just keep dancing. Podcast. Advice.
Or you could try MedExpress. MedExpress. Healthcare without the noise.
I'd never met anyone like him. It was as if fate brought him to me to open up my world. And that's when I knew I was in love.
Oh, I didn't know you and Grandad met in Italy.
Oh, no. We met the following year.
Gran!
Getting to know Gran before she was Gran. On the train, you can.
Mom's gonna love this.
Oh, darling, this is beautiful. When can I move in?
With kitchens from under £3,000, you can feel as proud as a peacock with Wickes.
Cold water.
I have been having immoral thoughts.
My service to God matters.
I have never felt the way that you make me feel.
You shouldn't love me.
I am shameful.
Brand new drama, Falling, on Channel 4. Coming soon.
Welcome back. A new species of wasp has been named after Sir David Attenborough in honour of his 100th birthday tomorrow. The natural world has undergone profound changes over the last century, and Sir David's warnings about the need to act to stem the loss of species and habitats have become ever more urgent. Our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson, looks back on his life and meets others working to encourage people of all ages to love and protect the environment.
100 years and a milestone, a lens through which society can judge how it's
Charles
evolved.
Lagos and I returned from spending 4 months in search of a dragon.
And for one man, a lifetime that's charted the changing fortunes of the natural world. As Sir David Attenborough celebrates his century of life on Earth,
To that, he must fight.
it's a moment to reflect on the blue planet and where we're heading.
We are at a unique stage in our history. Never before have we had such an awareness of what we are doing to the planet.
Very few have the privilege of such a long lens view on time and space, but their messages hold keys to securing our future.
Oh gosh, they're lovely. Look at them.
Margaret celebrated her 100th birthday earlier this year. Like Attenborough, she's dedicated her life to conservation, protecting these rare alpine plants like the blue gentian.
These have got the flowers open. They're such a brilliant blue. The relic flora from just after the Ice Age went. So 12,000 years, much older than Durham Cathedral or Stonehenge. And yeah, they are part of our heritage. If you say 100 years, the flora, when they were in flower, must have looked beautiful. A real garden of colour. One has to make do with a much more of a monochrome sort of world than what I knew when I was younger.
Meerkats.
For over 7 decades, Sir David has brought wonder into our homes. He now uses his voice to wake us up to what's at stake.
I've witnessed the natural world at its most fascinating and vibrant. But I've also witnessed startling changes. Changes that are today threatening our very civilizations.
Looking back over Sir David Attenborough's 100-year milestone, there have been immense changes to our natural world. The average size of wildlife populations globally has fallen by a staggering 73%. Today, 48,600 species across the world are at threat of extinction. In our wild isles, it's 1 in 6. The great British landscape has lost almost all of its wild flower meadows and most of our ancient woodlands. The green, intensively farmed and slowly turned to grey as development concreted over the countryside. The sights and sounds of nature now very different from when Attenborough was born. But beacons of hope in the reintroduction of beavers, red kites returning, rewilded habitats. Hope, perhaps, that the century ahead can be reimagined into a better future.
There's a bitten booming today. There's marsh harriers breeding, there's avocets here, spoonbills come here. I mean, it's such a fantastic site for wildlife.
There is a great white egret.
Oh, wow. Perhaps they'll breed this year.
Hopefully, yeah.
This year, the Norfolk Wildlife Trust celebrates its centenary. What started as one site gave birth to a nationwide conservation movement. For 100 years, Bernard's family has been wardens here. David writing the story of Clyde Nature Reserve through this one dynasty.
Are you an optimist about the future for wildlife?
Oh yes, very much so. Thank goodness we've got areas like this to protect.
The losses are sad.
Yeah, the losses are sad. You go across Salthouse Heath this evening and there'd be nightingales everywhere now. I've not heard a nightingale. Cuckoos is another one. I went all last year without hearing a cuckoo.
That is so sad.
In my lifetime, I've witnessed a terrible decline. In yours, you could and should witness a wonderful recovery.
Oh my God. It's really teasing us, but there's a nightingale here.
Louis VI is a musician harnessing birdsong to engage a whole new audience, creating a soundtrack to inspire change.
So what I'm trying to do now is trying to bring these sounds back to the younger generations so they can reconnect to nature. I mean, how could you ever say that we invented music listening to that? The beauty of listening to nature sounds is that you start to notice, and if you start to notice, you notice what we've lost, but also what we stand to gain in a more nature-filled future. So what's it going to be like 100 years from now? Cuckoo! God, it's everything is here. It's so important for the next generation to be engaged in this because it's our future.
If children don't grow up knowing about nature and appreciating it, they will not understand it. And if they don't understand it, they won't protect it. And if they don't protect it, who will?
We were like collecting sticks to make like a little roof bit on top so predators don't see him from above.
You get to find lots of different things like twigs, bark, moss, acorns. We can see so many flowers and I feel happy.
Looking back over Attenborough's century is 100 Acre Wood, where A.A. Milne has inspired children since 1926 with his stories of Winnie the Pooh and friends.
I live right on the edge of Ashdown Forest. Every time I walk down to Pooh Bridge, I think of walking in the footsteps of A.A. Milne. Winnie the Pooh stories have such an impact that I think they will help the next generations care for the planet.
I like animals, and if you don't look after the planet, the animals might get affected.
As Sir David turns 100, no doubt he'd be far too modest to say so, but perhaps what he'd really like above all is for us to listen to what he's saying.
And from all of us here at Channel 4, happy birthday, David Attenborough. That's it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock with most of the election results. Until then, that is Channel 4 News. Have a good evening. Thanks for watching.
Good evening. For many of us, the cloud has been bubbling up through today, and that'll be the story over the next couple of days too. So despite some spells of sunshine, there will be showers around, but for England and Wales, it will start to turn just a little bit warmer. And that's because for England and Wales, we'll have a southerly wind bringing in warmer air from the nearby continent. But for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we'll have Arctic air in place, so temperatures will be a couple of degrees below average for the time of year. Tonight then, across Scotland and Northern Ireland, there will be a band of clouds sliding southwards with occasional rain, a bit breezy too. Clearer skies will follow on behind. For England and Wales, it's quite a messy picture. With the skies clear, there could be some patches of mist and fog, but generally a lot of cloud, and there could be some showers across Wales and southern and western parts of England in particular. Locally, a touch of frost in the countryside where skies are clearest, but for most of us, temperatures holding up typically in the range of 5 to 9 degrees quite widely. Tomorrow then, for Scotland and Northern Ireland, there will be a band of cloud continuing to move southwards, an odd spot of rain, but it's not going to amount to much at all. Brighter skies will start to follow on from the north. Meanwhile, for England and Wales, yes, there'll be some sunshine, but again, the clouds bubble up through the day and showers will break out, and some of them could be heavy across Wales, the Midlands and central southern parts of England. Here's the picture then in a bit more detail. This is 4 in the afternoon, and at this stage of the day for the Channel Islands and southern coastal counties of England, a lot of dry and fine weather, but head further northwards across England and Wales, particularly inland, the clouds will tower up into the sky, showers will break out, and some of them could be heavy and fairly slow moving as well. Warm in the south, 18 or 19 Celsius there, but chilly further northwards, no higher than 11 or 12 degrees for many. Now, by the time we get to Saturday, there could be a slightly longer spell of rain for northeast England into southeast Scotland. That may linger for much of the day, but elsewhere there will be some brightness and sunshine. But again, into the afternoon, the clouds will bubble up with showers breaking out, heavy in places, warm in the south, but still pretty chilly across the north. Enjoy your evening. Take care. Goodbye.
Tonight, Bouncing Balls has everyone in a twist. New Taskmaster at 9. Fed, watered and full of sass, Cats does countdown at 10. But next, Paul Merton is taking the controls, driving Amazing Trains.
She's ready to go out.
Alright, do us a favour and wake Tara up.
And shoot yours.
Where have you been? The network premiere of How to Have Sex on Film 4. Stream or watch tonight at 9.
History tells us one thing, that blood and fire and retribution always happen. And now it's coming for us.
Brand new drama from Russell T Davies, Tiptoe on Channel 4. Coming soon.
Joel Dommett is going to extreme lengths to win those points. We're delivering all new Taskmaster to your door at 9 o'clock. But steaming his way around the Welsh coastline now, it's Paul Merton driving Amazing Trains.
Channel 4 Escapism, sponsored by Fred Olsen Cruise Lines.
Trains. I've always loved them.